Hello, and welcome to the Fluent English Journey. I'm Blake, and today we're going to focus on something very simple, but incredibly powerful for your English growth: daily use sentences. Many learners believe that advanced English means using difficult grammar or very complex vocabulary all the time. But in real life, fluent speakers rely on simple, clear, and natural sentences that they use every day. Even at an advanced level, mastering these daily sentences can make your English sound smoother, more confident, and effortless. These are the sentences you can use at work, with friends, during meetings, or in casual conversations. When you use them correctly, people feel comfortable talking to you, and your English sounds natural instead of forced. This is a key sign of real fluency. In today's lesson, I'll share common daily sentences, explain what they mean, show you when to use them, and give practical examples. By the end of this episode, you'll be able to use these sentences naturally in your own conversations without thinking too much. Let's begin with greetings and small talk, because this is usually the first part of any conversation. The way you greet someone sets the tone for everything that comes next. You probably already know formal greetings like, "Hello, how are you?" But native speakers often use more relaxed and friendly expressions. For example, instead of saying, "Hello, how are you?" you can say, "Hey, how's it going today?" or "Good morning. How's your day so far?" These sound warm, natural, and conversational. When you meet someone you haven't seen in a long time, you can say, "Long time no see." This simple sentence immediately creates a friendly connection. Another great conversation starter is, "What have you been up to lately?" This sentence invites the other person to talk about their life, work, or recent experiences. You can respond with sentences like, "I've been busy with work, but I finally started reading a new book." Or, "Not much, really. Just trying to enjoy my weekends." Notice how these sentences are short and simple, yet they sound fluent and natural. That's the power of daily use English. Now, let's move on to expressing opinions, which is something we do all the time. Instead of basic phrases like, "I think that's good," you can use more natural and confident sentences such as, "In my opinion, that's a great idea," or "From my point of view, this seems like the best choice." When you agree with someone, you can say, "Absolutely, I couldn't agree more," or "Exactly, that's exactly how I feel." These expressions sound confident and friendly. If you disagree politely, try sentences like, "I see your point, but I think," or "I understand what you mean, however." These sentences help you share a different opinion without sounding rude. Next, let's talk about making requests in daily life. Advanced English speakers sound polite, but not overly formal. Instead of saying, "Can you help me?" you can say, "Would you mind helping me with this?" or "Could you please give me a hand with this task?" These sentences sound polite, professional, and very natural in both work and personal situations. When thanking someone, don't limit yourself to just "Thank you." You can say, "I really appreciate your help," or "Thanks a lot. That was very kind of you." In more informal situations, you can say, "Thanks, I owe you one," or "I really appreciate it. That means a lot." These expressions show warmth and genuine gratitude. Let's now practice talking about plans and schedules. Instead of saying, "I will do it tomorrow," try saying, "I'm planning to finish it by tomorrow," or "I should be able to get it done tomorrow." If you're not completely sure, you can say, "I might try to finish it by tomorrow, depending on how busy I am." These sentences add realism and sound more natural in real conversations. Talking about feelings and emotions is another important part of daily English. Instead of saying, "I am happy," you can say, "I'm feeling great today," or "I'm in a really good mood." If you're stressed, instead of saying, "I am stressed," try, "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed at the moment," or "It's been a tough day, to be honest." These sentences express emotion clearly and naturally. Now let's look at expressing surprise or interest. Instead of just saying really or wow, you can say, that's unbelievable or I can't believe it. Tell me more. When someone shares good news, instead of saying that's good, try that's fantastic. I'm so happy for you or wow, that's amazing news. These expressions make your English sound warm, genuine, and engaging. Finally, let's focus on daily English at work. At an advanced level, it's important to sound professional, polite, and natural. Many learners struggle with meetings, updates, or casual conversations with colleagues. For example, during a meeting, you can say, I have completed the first part of the project, and I am now focusing on the next steps. Or, so far, everything is on track, and I expect to finish by the deadline. When you need clarification, instead of saying, I don't understand, try, could you please elaborate on that point? Or, I'm not sure I fully understand. Could you explain a little more? In casual conversations with colleagues, you can say, how has your day been so far? Or, I noticed your presentation yesterday. It was really impressive. Simple compliments like these help build strong relationships and create a positive working environment. When offering help, it's better to sound polite and supportive rather than too direct. Instead of simply saying, do you want help? You can use more natural and professional sentences. For example, you can say, if you need any support with this task, I'd be happy to help, or let me know if there's anything I can do to assist you. These expressions sound respectful, confident, and very professional, especially in an office or workplace setting. Now, let's talk about daily conversations while shopping or running errands. Even at an advanced level, using natural English in shops, cafes, and markets is very important because these situations happen every day. When you need to ask for something in a store, you can say, excuse me, could you tell me where I can find the bread section? Or, would it be possible to get this item in a different color or size? These sentences are polite, common, and widely used in everyday life. When it's time to pay, instead of saying, here is the money, you can say, I'd like to pay by card. Is that okay? Or can I pay using my phone? Small sentences like these make your English sound smooth, confident, and natural. When ordering food in a restaurant or cafe, avoid very direct phrases like, I want a coffee. Instead, you can say, I'd like a cappuccino, please, with a little milk, or could I have the sandwich without tomatoes, please? If you want recommendations, try asking, what do you recommend from the menu, or is there a special dish you would suggest today? These sentences help you sound polite, friendly, and confident. When thanking a waiter or cashier, instead of only saying thanks, you can say thank you. I really appreciate your help, or that was very kind of you. Thank you. These expressions sound warm and respectful. Let's now move on to daily conversations about transportation. These sentences are very useful because most people travel regularly and clear communication is essential. If you're taking a taxi, you can say, could you please take me to Central Station? Or I'd like to go to the airport. Is that possible? When using public transportation, you can ask, excuse me, does this bus go to the city center? Or could you tell me which platform the train to London departs from? If there's a problem, such as a delay or a lost item, you can say, I think I left my bag on the bus. Is there a way to report it? Or there seems to be a delay. Do you know how long we might have to wait? These sentences are polite, clear, and very helpful in real-life situations. Now let's explore daily conversations with friends and at social events. Even advanced learners sometimes feel unsure in casual conversations, but having ready sentences makes everything easier. If you want to invite someone, you can say, would you like to go for a coffee this weekend? Or I'm planning to see a movie tonight. Would you like to join? When accepting an invitation, instead of just saying yes, you can say, that sounds great. I'd love to come, or thanks for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to it. If you need to decline politely, you can say, "I'm really sorry. I already have other plans, but thank you for inviting me," or "I won't be able to make it this time, but I hope we can meet soon." These sentences help you stay polite and friendly. When sharing experiences with friends, you can say, "Yesterday, I tried a new restaurant and the food was amazing," or "Last weekend, I went hiking and it was an incredible experience." When giving opinions in social conversations, you can say, "I really enjoyed the movie. It was engaging and well made," or "In my opinion, that book has some excellent ideas about personal development." These sentences sound confident without being complicated. Next, let's focus on daily conversations on phone calls and video calls. Spoken English over the phone needs to be clear, polite, and natural. When starting a call, instead of only saying hello, you can say, "Hi, this is Blake speaking. How are you today?" or "Hello, I hope I'm not disturbing you." When asking to speak to someone, you can say, "Could I speak to Mr. Smith, please?" or "Is Ms. Johnson available at the moment?" If you need to leave a message, try, "Could you please ask him to call me back when he's free?" or "Please let her know I called, and I'll follow up later." During phone conversations, it's important to confirm details politely. You can say, "Just to make sure I understood correctly, the meeting is at 3 p.m. tomorrow, right?" or "Could you please repeat the last part? I want to be sure I have all the details." When ending a call, instead of just saying bye, you can say, "Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I look forward to speaking with you again soon," or "It was great speaking with you. Have a wonderful day." These sentences sound polite, warm, and professional. Finally, let's talk about giving directions and asking for help. These situations are very common in daily life. When asking for directions, you can say, "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the nearest supermarket?" or "I'm looking for the library. Could you point me in the right direction?" When giving directions, you can say, "Go straight for 2 blocks, then turn left, and you'll see it on your right," or "Take the first right, walk about 200 meters, and the building will be on your left." When offering help in public places, you can say, "Do you need any help carrying that?" or "I can show you the way if you like." When someone asks you for help, instead of replying with just "yes," you can respond in a more natural and confident way. For example, you can say, "Of course, I'd be happy to help. Where do you need to go?" Or you might say, "Certainly, let me guide you. It's not far from here." Using sentences like these makes your English sound helpful, confident, and polite, especially in real-life situations. Now, let's continue with daily conversations for sharing personal experiences and telling stories. Many advanced learners find storytelling difficult, but using simple and well-structured sentences can make it much easier. Instead of saying only, "I went to Paris," you can say, "Last summer, I visited Paris, and it was an unforgettable experience. The city is full of culture, history, and amazing food." This kind of sentence gives more detail and makes your story more interesting. When talking about your day, you can say, "Yesterday, I spent most of the day working on a project, and in the evening, I went for a long walk in the park. It was very relaxing." These sentences sound natural, clear, and fluent. When sharing your opinion about an experience, instead of saying only "It was good," you can say, "I really enjoyed it, especially the museums and the local food. It felt like a true cultural experience." Or, "It was challenging at times, but I learned a lot and had an amazing time overall." When comparing experiences, you can say, "Compared to my last trip, this one was much more relaxing and enjoyable," or "This experience taught me more about myself than I expected." These sentences sound advanced, but are still easy to use in everyday conversation. Next, let's focus on daily conversations for problem-solving and emergency situations. These moments can be stressful, so having the right sentences helps you stay calm and communicate clearly. If you lose something, you can say, I think I left my wallet somewhere. Could you help me look for it? Or, I seem to have misplaced my bag. Do you know if anyone has found it? If you need urgent help, you can say, excuse me, I need assistance right away. Something urgent has happened, or could you please call for help? There is an emergency. These sentences are clear and urgent without sounding panicked. When explaining a problem, instead of saying it's broken, you can say, the machine isn't working properly, and I'm not sure what the issue is. Could someone take a look? Or, there seems to be a problem with my internet connection. Can you help me troubleshoot it? When suggesting a solution, you can say, maybe we could try restarting it and see if that fixes the issue, or one possible solution could be to contact customer service and ask for assistance. These sentences make your English sound calm, professional, and fluent. Now let's talk about expressing wishes, regrets, and hopes, which adds depth to your conversations. Instead of saying, I want to travel, you can say, I really wish I could travel more often, or I'd love to visit Japan one day. It's always been my dream. When expressing regret, instead of saying, I'm sorry, you can say, I really regret not taking that opportunity when I had the chance, or looking back, I wish I had handled the situation differently. These sentences sound thoughtful and mature. When talking about the future, you can say, I hope to improve my English skills this year and become more confident in conversations, or my goal is to develop a new skill, perhaps learning how to cook traditional dishes from different countries. If someone asks about your plans, instead of giving a short answer, you can say, I'm planning to take a short course next month. It should help me improve my professional skills and meet new people. This shows clarity, confidence, and fluency. Next, let's focus on giving compliments and expressing admiration. Compliments may seem simple, but they can greatly improve your social interactions. Instead of saying only nice job, you can say, I really admire the effort you put into this project. It's very impressive, or your presentation was excellent. I learned a lot from it. When complimenting someone's appearance or style politely, you can say, I like your outfit. It looks very stylish and suits you perfectly, or your hairstyle looks great. It gives you a fresh and professional look. When admiring someone's personality or achievements, you can say, I really respect how patient and thoughtful you are, or it's inspiring to see how dedicated you are to your work. These sentences create a positive and lasting impression. Finally, when responding to compliments, instead of saying only thanks, you can say thank you. That really means a lot coming from you, or I appreciate your kind words. They encourage me to keep improving. Now, let's focus on daily sentences for casual humor and light conversations. Humor plays an important role in social interactions, and using natural expressions helps you sound relaxed, confident, and more native-like. Instead of simply saying, that is funny, you can say, that really made me laugh. You have a great sense of humor, or I wasn't expecting that. It completely caught me off guard in a funny way. These sentences show genuine reaction and sound natural. When joking with friends, you can say things like, I guess I need to practice a bit more before I can compete with you, or be careful, or I might start copying your style. These expressions are playful, friendly, and safe for casual conversations. When responding to humor, instead of only saying, haha, you can say, that was hilarious. You always know how to make people laugh, or I have to admit, I didn't see that coming. Very clever. Using sentences like these makes your English sound relaxed, confident, and fluent. Humor can also be used in professional environments as long as it stays polite and light. For example, you can say, I hope our meeting will be as productive as it is enjoyable, or I'll try not to spill coffee on my notes this time, but no promises. These sentences keep the atmosphere friendly and approachable. Next, let's talk about daily sentences for giving advice and suggestions. This is an important skill for advanced learners because it allows you to guide others without sounding rude or forceful. Instead of saying, "You should do this," you can say, "If I were you, I'd consider trying this approach. It might work better," or perhaps you could explore a few alternatives before making a decision. When giving informal advice to friends, you can say, "I think it might be a good idea to take a break and relax a bit," or maybe you could talk to someone who has more experience with this situation. These sentences sound polite, natural, and supportive. When responding to advice, you can say, "That's a great suggestion. I'll definitely think about it," or "Thanks for the advice. It really helps me see the situation more clearly." If you disagree politely, you can say, "I see your point, but I'm considering another approach," or "I appreciate your input. However, I feel this method might work better for me." These expressions show respect and confidence. Now, let's focus on daily sentences for expressing feelings in more depth. Advanced learners can use natural sentences to explain emotions clearly and politely. Instead of saying, "I am happy," you can say, "I feel really content today because everything seems to be going smoothly," or "I'm in a great mood. It feels like all my hard work is paying off." When expressing disappointment, you can say, "I feel a little disappointed because things didn't turn out as I expected," or "I'm frustrated with the situation, but I'm trying to stay positive." When expressing excitement, you can say, "I'm thrilled about the opportunity to work on this project," or "I can't wait to share the news with everyone. It's really exciting." If you feel nervous or anxious, instead of saying, "I'm nervous," you can say, "I feel a bit anxious about the upcoming presentation, but I'm preparing as much as I can," or "It's natural to feel nervous before an important meeting. I just need to stay focused." These sentences are natural, polite, and easy to use. Now, let's talk about daily sentences for expressing gratitude. Saying thank you in a thoughtful way makes your English sound confident and polite. Instead of only saying thank you, you can say, "I really appreciate your help. It made a big difference," or "Thank you so much for taking the time to explain this to me. It was very helpful." When someone does something unexpectedly kind, you can say, "I'm truly grateful for your support. It means a lot to me," or "I can't thank you enough for what you did. You really made my day." When responding to thanks, instead of only saying "You're welcome," you can say, "It was no problem at all. I'm happy I could help," or "I'm glad I could assist. Just let me know if you need anything." In professional settings, you can say, "Thank you for your detailed feedback. It's very useful for improving my work," or "I appreciate the time you spent reviewing my report. It was extremely helpful." These sentences sound polite, advanced, and natural. Next, let's move on to daily sentences for making plans. Planning is a common part of everyday conversations, and using natural expressions helps your English sound fluent. Instead of saying, "Let's meet tomorrow," you can say, "Would you like to meet tomorrow afternoon to discuss this further?" Or, "I'm thinking of going for a walk this weekend. Would you like to join me?" When inviting someone politely, you can say, "I'd love for you to come to my gathering on Friday. It would be great to see you there," or "If you're free next week, perhaps we can catch up over coffee." When confirming plans, instead of saying only "Okay," you can say, "That sounds perfect. I'll see you at 3 p.m. then," or "Great, I'll make sure to keep that time free." If you need to reschedule, you can say, "I'm really sorry. Something has come up. Could we reschedule for another day?" Or, "Would it be possible to move our meeting to next Wednesday instead?" These sentences are clear, polite, and natural. Finally, let's talk about daily sentences for apologizing. Apologizing properly is an important skill that shows maturity and respect. Instead of only saying "sorry," you can say, "I'm really sorry for the misunderstanding. I should have communicated more clearly," or "I apologize for the inconvenience. That wasn't my intention." These sentences sound polite, sincere, and professional. You can also say, "It was not my intention," or "I apologize for the delay." "I should have informed you earlier." When apologizing for a mistake at work, you can say, "I realize I made an error, and I am taking steps to correct it immediately," or "Please accept my apologies for any inconvenience this may have caused." These sentences sound polite, professional, and calm. In casual situations, you can say, "I'm really sorry for being late. I didn't anticipate the traffic," or "I feel bad about what happened. I hope we can move past it." These expressions sound sincere and natural. If someone apologizes to you, instead of only saying "it's okay," you can say, "No worries, I understand. Thank you for apologizing," or "It's fine." Let's focus on the next steps and move forward. These responses show maturity, understanding, and politeness in any situation. Next, let's explore daily sentences for negotiating and reaching agreements. These are especially useful in work, business, and important discussions. When proposing a solution, instead of saying, "We should do it this way," you can say, "One option could be to approach it this way. What do you think?" Or, "I suggest we consider this alternative. It might be more effective." When agreeing politely, you can say, "That sounds reasonable. I think it could work well," or "I agree with your point, and I believe this approach is practical." These sentences make your English sound confident and diplomatic. When disagreeing politely, instead of saying, "I don't agree," you can say, "I see your perspective. However, I think there's another approach we could consider," or "I understand your point, but I feel a different strategy might be more effective." When finalizing an agreement, you can say, "Let's proceed with this plan. It seems like the best way forward," or "We've reached a good solution, and I think everyone will benefit from it." These sentences are professional, calm, and natural. Now, let's cover daily sentences for reflecting on life and experiences. These expressions help you sound thoughtful and mature. Instead of saying, "It was a good day," you can say, "Today was very productive, and I feel satisfied with what I accomplished," or "It was a challenging day, but I learned a lot and feel more prepared for future tasks." When talking about personal growth, you can say, "Looking back, I realize how much I've improved in managing my time and priorities," or "I've learned a lot from my experiences, and I feel more confident making decisions now." When sharing insights, you can say, "From my experience, it's always better to plan carefully before making a big decision," or "I've noticed that staying consistent with small habits makes a big difference over time." If you want to encourage someone, you can say, "Keep going. Even small steps lead to meaningful progress," or "Believe in yourself. You're capable of more than you think." These sentences sound natural and inspiring. Next, let's focus on daily sentences for expressing curiosity and asking questions. Asking questions naturally makes conversations engaging. Instead of saying, "What is this?" you can say, "Could you please explain how this works?" Or, "I'm curious. How did you manage to accomplish that?" When showing interest in someone's experience, you can say, "That sounds fascinating. Could you tell me more about it?" Or, "I'd love to hear more details about your trip. It sounds very interesting." When asking for opinions, instead of saying, "Do you like it?" you can say, "What's your opinion on this idea?" or "How do you feel about this approach?" When seeking advice, you can say, "I'd appreciate your advice on this matter," or "Could you give me some suggestions for improving this project?" These sentences sound polite, confident, and professional. Now, let's look at daily sentences for expressing certainty and uncertainty. These are very useful in work, study, and social situations. Instead of saying, "I think so," you can say, "I'm fairly certain this is the right approach," or "Based on the information I have, I believe this is the best solution." When expressing uncertainty, you can say, "I'm not entirely sure, but I think this could work," or "It seems likely, although I'd like to verify it before confirming." When discussing expectations, you can say, I expect the project will be completed on time if we continue at this pace, or it seems the weather will improve tomorrow, so we can plan outdoor activities. When talking about possibilities, you can say, there's a good chance the event will be successful based on previous experience, or it's possible we might face some challenges, but I'm confident we can handle them. These sentences sound advanced yet natural. Now let's focus on daily sentences for sharing news. Sharing updates is a common part of everyday communication. Instead of saying, I have news, you can say, I have something exciting to share with you, or you won't believe what happened today. You can also say, I just received some news that I think you'll find interesting. When sharing professional news, you can say, our team has just completed the project successfully, and I wanted to let you know, or I received an update from the client, and everything seems to be going smoothly. When sharing personal experiences, you can say, today, I had an unexpected moment at the park that really made me smile, or I met someone today whose story really inspired me, and I thought you'd appreciate it too. When reacting to news, instead of saying only, oh, you can say, that's incredible. I'm so happy to hear that, or wow, I didn't see that coming. Tell me more. These responses make your English sound engaged and expressive. Telling stories is a very important skill, especially for advanced English learners. Storytelling allows you to express your thoughts, emotions, and experiences clearly and naturally. When you tell a good story, people can understand not only what happened, but also how you felt and why it mattered to you. When describing an event, instead of using very short sentences like, I went to the market, you can add more detail and emotion. For example, you can say, yesterday, I went to the market, and it turned into an unforgettable experience because of the lively atmosphere and the interesting people I met along the way. You could also say, I walked through the city center and started noticing small details I had never paid attention to before. Those little moments made the whole day feel special. When expressing emotions in your stories, it helps your English sound more natural and fluent. You might say, I was truly amazed by how kind everyone was, and it completely lifted my mood. Or, at first, I felt a bit nervous, but as time passed, the experience became very rewarding. When talking about challenges, instead of simply saying something was difficult, you can express growth and reflection. For example, the task was challenging, but I learned a lot from the process and felt proud of my efforts. You can also say it was not easy, but the final result was satisfying and gave me a strong sense of accomplishment. These kinds of sentences show confidence, maturity, and reflection. When telling stories about other people, you can add interest and emotion as well. You might say, a friend of mine shared an inspiring story about their travels, and it really motivated me. Or, someone at work came up with a very creative idea that impressed everyone, and I wanted to share it with you. Using sentences like these adds depth and emotion to your English and makes your storytelling more engaging. Now, let's move on to daily sentences for casual debates and expressing opinions. Even in friendly conversations, it is important to express your opinions clearly and politely. Instead of saying only, I disagree, you can say, I understand your point, but I see it differently because of this reason. You can also say, that is an interesting perspective. However, I have a slightly different view. When you agree with someone, you can say, I completely agree with you, especially on the part about, or, I think you are right, and I would also add that. These sentences sound respectful, confident, and natural. When discussing complex or sensitive topics, you can stay calm and thoughtful. For example, this is a difficult issue, but I believe we should consider all perspectives before making a decision. Or, there are many factors involved, and it is important to approach this discussion logically and calmly. When expressing doubt or asking for clarification politely, you can say, I am not entirely sure. Could you explain your point a little more? Or, I see what you mean, but I would like to understand your reasoning better. These sentences help your English sound advanced and professional. Next, let's talk about daily sentences for expressing preferences. Expressing what you like or prefer is very common in everyday conversations. Instead of saying, I like tea, you can say, I prefer tea over coffee because it helps me relax in the afternoon. You can also say, I enjoy green tea the most. It has a refreshing taste and makes me feel energized. When choosing between options, you might say, I would rather go for a walk than stay indoors because the fresh air feels refreshing. Or, if I had to choose, I would pick the city over the countryside because of its vibrant atmosphere. When talking with friends, you can say, I really enjoy spending my weekends reading books or exploring new places. Or, I prefer watching movies at home because it feels more comfortable and relaxing. When giving recommendations, you can say, if you enjoy calm environments, I would suggest visiting the botanical gardens. Or, for a fun evening, I recommend trying the new restaurant in town. The food is excellent, and the staff are very friendly. Now, let's focus on daily sentences for talking about hobbies and interests. Talking about what you enjoy helps you connect with others more easily. Instead of saying, I like painting, you can say, I really enjoy painting in my free time because it allows me to express my creativity. You can also say, one of my favorite hobbies is photography because it helps me capture meaningful moments. When asking about someone else's hobbies, you can say, what do you enjoy doing in your free time? Or, do you have any hobbies that you are passionate about? When talking about learning new skills, you can say, I have recently started learning to play the guitar, and although it is challenging, it is very rewarding. Or, I am thinking about taking a cooking class to improve my skills and try new recipes. When expressing excitement, you can say, I am really passionate about hiking because it gives me a sense of freedom and adventure. Or, I love reading historical novels because they transport me to a different time and place. These sentences help your English sound fluent, expressive, confident, and natural in everyday conversations. Using these sentences makes your English expressive, natural, and engaging. They help you communicate your thoughts clearly and connect more easily with others. Now, let's explore daily sentences for discussing travel and experiences abroad. Travel is a very common topic in conversations, and advanced learners can benefit greatly from using sentences that sound fluent and natural. Instead of saying something very short like, I went to Italy, you can give more detail and emotion. For example, you can say, last summer, I traveled to Italy and had an amazing experience exploring the culture, enjoying the food, and visiting historic places. You can also say, during my trip to Spain, I learned a lot about local traditions and met some very interesting people. When giving travel advice, you can sound helpful and confident. You might say, if you plan to visit Paris, I recommend going early in the morning to avoid the crowds. Or, when traveling to Japan, it is a good idea to learn a few basic Japanese phrases. It really helps when communicating with locals. When talking about your own travel experiences with friends, you can say, one of my most memorable trips was to Greece. The beaches were beautiful, and the people were very welcoming. Or, I really enjoyed my visit to Thailand, especially exploring the local markets and tasting authentic food. When asking about other people's travel experiences, you can say, have you traveled anywhere recently that you really enjoyed? Or, what is the most interesting place you have ever visited? These sentences sound natural, fluent, and help your English feel confident and engaging. Next, let's focus on daily sentences for talking about education. Even at an advanced level, using natural sentences to talk about studies, courses, and learning experiences is very important. Instead of saying, I am studying English, you can say, I am currently studying English at an advanced level to improve my listening and speaking skills, and it has been a very rewarding experience. You could also say, I have been taking an online course in digital marketing to develop my professional skills and learn new strategies. When talking about classes or lessons, you can say, today's class was very informative, and I learned a lot about communicating effectively in professional situations. Or, I really enjoyed the workshop on public speaking because it gave me practical tools to improve my confidence. When discussing learning habits or strategies, instead of saying, I study every day, you can say, I try to dedicate at least 1 hour every day to reviewing new vocabulary and practicing speaking. Or, I find that taking notes and summarizing what I learn helps me remember information more effectively. When asking someone about their education, you can say, what subjects are you currently studying, and which ones do you find the most interesting? Or, have you taken any courses recently that you found particularly useful? These sentences make your English sound polite, engaging, and natural. Now, let's talk about daily sentences for discussing work-life balance. Talking about balancing work, studies, and personal life is very common in everyday conversations. Instead of simply saying, I am busy, you can say, I am trying to balance my work and personal life by planning my tasks carefully and making time to relax. You can also say, it can be challenging at times, but I make an effort to prioritize both my professional responsibilities and my personal well-being. When giving advice about work-life balance, you can say, I think it is important to set clear boundaries between work and personal time to avoid stress and burnout. Or, taking short breaks during the day can help maintain focus and increase productivity. When discussing challenges, you might say, sometimes I feel overwhelmed by deadlines, but I try to manage my time efficiently and ask for support when needed. Or, it is not always easy to find time for hobbies, but I make an effort because they help me recharge. These sentences sound thoughtful, fluent, and realistic. Now, let's move on to daily sentences for talking about health and wellness. Talking about physical and mental health is very common, and using natural sentences helps you sound confident and fluent. Instead of saying, I exercise, you can say, I try to exercise at least 3 times a week to stay fit and maintain my energy levels. Or, I enjoy jogging in the mornings because it helps me start the day feeling refreshed and focused. When talking about healthy eating, you can say, I try to include plenty of fruits and vegetables in my diet because they give me energy and help me feel healthy. Or, I make an effort to drink enough water every day to stay hydrated and support my overall well-being. When discussing mental wellness, instead of only saying, I feel stressed, you can say, I have been feeling a bit stressed lately, so I am trying to manage it by getting enough rest and practicing mindfulness. You can also say, when I feel overwhelmed, I take short breaks, go for a walk, or talk to someone I trust. It really helps me clear my mind. Using sentences like these makes your English sound natural, mature, and confident while allowing you to talk comfortably about real-life topics. Sometimes I feel stressed because of work or personal responsibilities. When that happens, I try to practice mindfulness or meditation to stay calm. I also focus on keeping a positive mindset and taking short breaks when needed so I can maintain mental balance and clarity. When asking for advice about health and well-being, you can use polite and natural sentences. For example, you can say, do you have any tips for staying motivated to exercise regularly? Or, how do you usually manage stress during busy periods? These sentences sound advanced, practical, and natural in both casual and professional conversations. Now, let's focus on daily sentences for talking about current events. Discussing news, trends, or local events is a common part of everyday conversation. Instead of simply saying, I read the news, you can say, I was reading an interesting article about climate change and how different countries are responding to environmental challenges. You can also say, I saw a news report about recent technological developments, and it made me curious about the future of innovation. When giving your opinion about current events, you can say, in my opinion, it is important to stay informed about what is happening in the world because it affects our daily lives. Or, I think the new policies will have a significant impact on society, and it is worth discussing their possible outcomes. When asking others about the news, you can say, have you read any interesting news articles recently? Or, what do you think about the current situation regarding international trade? When discussing global events more generally, you can say, the developments in technology are fascinating, and they are changing the way we communicate and work. Or, it is remarkable to see how communities adapt to challenges and support each other during difficult times. These sentences are natural, thoughtful, and useful in both professional and casual settings. Next, let's discuss daily sentences for personal reflection and self-improvement. Reflecting on experiences and sharing insights is an important skill for advanced learners. Instead of saying, I learned something, you can say, today I reflected on my experiences and realized how much I have grown in handling challenging situations. You can also say, I have noticed that small, consistent efforts in my work and personal life lead to significant improvements over time. When talking about self-improvement, you can say, I am trying to develop better time management skills so that I can be more productive and less stressed. Or, I make an effort to read a little every day because it helps me expand my knowledge and stay motivated. When reflecting on personal goals, you can say, I want to become more confident in public speaking, so I practice by presenting in front of small groups. Or, I am working on improving my communication skills by engaging in meaningful conversations and listening carefully to others. When asking for advice about self-improvement, you can say, do you have any suggestions for improving focus during work or study? Or, what strategies do you use to stay motivated when learning something new? These sentences make your English sound thoughtful, confident, and mature. Now, let's move on to daily sentences for discussing technology and social media. Technology is a very common topic, and using natural sentences helps your English sound modern and fluent. Instead of saying, I use a computer, you can say, I use my computer every day for work, communication, and staying informed about the world. You can also say, I enjoy exploring new apps that help me organize my tasks and improve productivity. When talking about social media, you can say, I follow a few professional groups on social media because they share useful information and networking opportunities. Or, I try to balance my social media usage so I can stay connected without spending too much time online. When discussing technology trends, you can say, the latest developments in artificial intelligence are very interesting, and I am curious about how they will affect different industries. Or, I think virtual meetings have changed the way we communicate professionally. They are more efficient, but it can be harder to stay engaged. When asking for opinions, you can say, how do you feel about the impact of social media on daily life? Or, do you use any tools or apps that help you stay organized and focused? Finally, let's focus on daily sentences for talking about entertainment. Entertainment is a popular topic in social conversations, and using natural sentences helps your English sound fluent and confident. Instead of saying, I like music, you can say, I really enjoy listening to music in my free time because it helps me relax and improves my mood. You can also say, I like exploring different genres of music, especially jazz and classical, because they have a unique style and rhythm. When discussing concerts or live events, you can say, I recently attended a live concert, and the atmosphere was amazing. The energy of the crowd was incredible. Or, going to the theater to watch a play was a wonderful experience. The performance was very engaging and thought-provoking. When talking about entertainment preferences, instead of saying, I watch TV, you can say, I prefer watching documentaries because they provide valuable knowledge and expand my understanding of the world. Or, I enjoy watching movies in the evening after a busy day because it helps me unwind and relax. When asking others about their entertainment habits, you can say, "What kind of music or movies do you enjoy the most?" Or, "Have you watched any interesting shows or performances recently?" Using sentences like these makes your English sound fluent, expressive, and natural in everyday conversations. Next, let's talk about daily sentences for discussing books and movies. Reading books and watching films are very common topics, and using natural sentences helps you express your thoughts and opinions clearly and confidently. Instead of only saying, "I read books," you can say, "I enjoy reading historical novels because they transport me to different times and allow me to learn about various cultures." You can also say, "I recently finished a mystery novel, and the plot twists kept me engaged from start to finish." When recommending books, you can say, "If you enjoy thrilling stories, I highly recommend this book because the characters are well developed and the storyline is very captivating." Or, for someone interested in personal development, this book offers practical advice along with inspiring real-life stories. When talking about movies, instead of saying, "I like movies," you can say, "I watched a fantastic movie last weekend. The acting was excellent, and the storyline was very compelling." You can also say, "I enjoy films that challenge my thinking and explore complex themes. They are both entertaining and thought-provoking." When asking others about their preferences, you can say, "Have you watched any movies recently that you would recommend?" Or, "What type of books do you enjoy reading the most?" These sentences are natural, fluent, and suitable for both casual and professional conversations. Now, let's focus on daily sentences for talking about sports and physical activities. Sports are a popular topic, and using natural sentences makes your English sound confident and engaging. Instead of only saying, "I play football," you can say, "I play football regularly with my friends because it helps me stay fit and improves my teamwork skills." Or, "I enjoy swimming because it is relaxing and also a great full body workout." When discussing sports events, you can say, "I watched an amazing tennis match yesterday. The players were extremely skilled, and the game was very exciting." Or, "Following the Olympics is fascinating because it showcases the dedication and talent of athletes from all over the world." When asking others about sports, instead of saying, "Do you play sports?" you can say, "Which sports do you enjoy practicing, and how often do you train?" Or, "Do you follow any sports events or leagues regularly?" When talking about health through sports, you can say, "I believe engaging in regular physical activity is essential for both physical and mental well-being." Or, "Exercising outdoors is especially enjoyable because it allows me to stay active while connecting with nature." These sentences are natural, advanced, and easy to use in daily conversation. Next, let's discuss daily sentences for social gatherings and events. Socializing is an important part of everyday life, and using natural sentences makes your English sound friendly and confident. Instead of only saying, "I went to a party," you can say, "I attended a small gathering with friends last night, and it was a wonderful opportunity to catch up and share experiences." You can also say, "I went to a networking event at work and met several interesting people who shared valuable insights." When inviting someone politely, you can say, "I would love for you to join us for dinner tomorrow evening. It would be great to spend some time together." Or, "If you are free this weekend, we are having a small get-together and you are welcome to come." When describing social events, instead of saying, "It was fun," you can say, "The gathering was very enjoyable. Everyone was friendly and the conversations were engaging." Or, "I really appreciated the opportunity to meet new people and hear about their experiences." When asking others about social events, you can say, "Have you attended any interesting events recently?" Or, "Do you enjoy going to social gatherings, or do you prefer quieter activities?" These sentences work well in both professional and casual interactions. Now, let's move on to daily sentences for lifestyle habits and daily routines. Talking about your lifestyle helps you express your personal preferences naturally and clearly. Instead of only saying, I wake up early, you can say, I try to wake up early every day to make the most of my morning and enjoy a healthy breakfast. Or, I like to start my day with light exercise and some reading so I feel energized and focused. When discussing daily routines, you can say, I usually spend my mornings working on important tasks and reserve the afternoons for meetings or personal projects. Or, in the evening, I try to relax by spending time with family, reading, or going for a short walk. Using sentences like these makes your English sound natural, organized, and confident in everyday conversations. In the evenings, I like to relax by cooking a nice meal or watching a show to unwind after a busy day. Taking time to slow down helps me recharge and feel more balanced. When talking about habits related to productivity, you can say, I try to plan my day in advance so I can stay organized and complete my tasks efficiently. You can also say, I make an effort to take short breaks during work to maintain focus and prevent fatigue. These habits help you stay productive without feeling overwhelmed. When asking someone about their lifestyle, you can say, how do you usually structure your day to balance work and personal time? Or, do you have any habits that help you stay productive and motivated? These sentences sound natural, thoughtful, and work well in both casual and professional conversations. Now, let's focus on daily sentences for cultural discussions. Talking about culture is an important part of advanced English because it helps you connect with people from different backgrounds and perspectives. Instead of only saying, I like culture, you can say, I am very interested in learning about different cultures because it helps me understand people better and broaden my perspective. You can also say, I enjoy exploring cultural festivals and traditions because they allow me to experience life from a different point of view. When discussing cultural differences, you can say, I have noticed that traditions vary greatly from country to country, and it is fascinating to see how people celebrate important events. Or, cultural diversity is one of the most enriching aspects of travel because it introduces new ways of thinking and living. When asking others about culture, you can say, what cultural traditions are most important to you? Or, have you ever participated in a festival or ceremony that left a lasting impression on you? When expressing appreciation for culture, you can say, I really admire how music and dance are an important part of this culture. They bring people together in a joyful way. Or, I find traditional art and crafts very inspiring because they reflect rich history and creativity. These sentences make your English sound natural, respectful, and confident. Next, let's talk about daily sentences for learning new skills. Developing new skills is a common topic, and using natural sentences helps your English sound practical and fluent. Instead of only saying, I am learning cooking, you can say, I have recently started learning new recipes because cooking is enjoyable and useful for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Or, I am taking a course in digital photography to improve my skills and explore my creativity. When discussing progress in learning, you can say, I feel that I am improving gradually because I practice consistently and challenge myself with new tasks. You can also say, learning a new skill can be difficult at first, but with patience and dedication, it becomes very rewarding. When asking others about learning, you can say, are you currently learning any new skills or hobbies? Or, what methods do you use to improve your skills effectively? When giving advice about learning, you can say, setting small goals and practicing regularly helps you make steady progress. Or, finding a mentor or joining a learning community can provide valuable guidance and support. These sentences are natural, clear, and suitable for advanced conversations. Now, let's move on to daily sentences for volunteering and community work. Talking about volunteering reflects personal values and social awareness. Instead of only saying, I volunteer, you can say, I participate in community volunteering projects because they allow me to help others and contribute to society. Or I enjoy organizing local events that support education and well-being. It feels very fulfilling. When discussing volunteering experiences, you can say, working with different groups of people has taught me a lot about teamwork and empathy. Or, volunteering has given me the opportunity to meet inspiring individuals who are dedicated to making a positive difference. When inviting others to volunteer, you can say, if you are interested, you could join our community project. It is a great way to give back and meet like-minded people. Or, participating in volunteer work can be very rewarding and offers valuable experiences that you may not find elsewhere. Using sentences like these makes your English sound meaningful, fluent, and confident in real-life conversations. When asking someone about their experiences, you can say, have you ever been involved in any volunteer projects? Or, what kind of community work do you find the most meaningful? These sentences are polite, natural, and engaging, and they work well in both casual and professional conversations. Now, let's focus on daily sentences for environmental awareness. Talking about the environment is an important topic today, and using natural sentences helps your English sound current, responsible, and thoughtful. Instead of only saying, I care about the environment, you can say, I try to reduce my environmental impact by recycling, conserving energy, and using sustainable products. You can also say, I am passionate about protecting nature because it is essential for future generations and the well-being of all living creatures. When discussing global environmental issues, you can say, climate change is one of the most critical challenges we face today, and it is important for both individuals and governments to take meaningful action. Or, reducing waste and promoting sustainability can make a significant difference if more people adopt environmentally friendly habits. When asking others about environmental practices, you can say, what steps do you take to live a more environmentally friendly life? Or, do you think people are doing enough to protect nature and natural resources? When suggesting actions, you can say, using reusable products and reducing plastic consumption are simple but effective ways to help the environment. Or, participating in local cleanup events or tree planting activities is a practical way to make a positive difference in the community. These sentences are advanced, natural, and show awareness and responsibility. Finally, let's discuss daily sentences for expressing personal opinions about society. Being able to share your thoughts clearly and thoughtfully is very important for advanced English learners. Instead of only saying, I think society is changing, you can say, I believe society is evolving rapidly due to technological advancements and changes in cultural values. Or, in my opinion, education and awareness play a key role in addressing social challenges and promoting equality. When discussing social issues, you can say, I think it is important to consider multiple perspectives before forming an opinion about social trends. Or, engaging in meaningful conversations about culture, ethics, and social responsibility helps us understand society better. When asking others for their opinions, you can say, what is your view on the current social trends and challenges? Or, how do you think communities can address important issues more effectively? When reflecting on your own contribution to society, you can say, I try to contribute positively by volunteering, supporting local initiatives, and raising awareness about important issues. Or, even small actions such as helping neighbors or sharing useful knowledge can have a meaningful impact on society. These sentences are natural, fluent, and very useful for daily conversations among advanced English speakers. And that brings us to the end of today's episode on Fluent English Journey. Today, we explored a wide range of daily use sentences that you can apply in real-life conversations. From expressing gratitude and making plans to discussing hobbies, sharing news, reflecting on life, and talking about society and the environment. These sentences help you sound natural and confident. Remember, sounding fluent in English is not just about knowing individual words. It is about combining them into clear, meaningful, and natural sentences. Try to practice these sentences regularly. Say them out loud, write them down, and use them when speaking with friends, colleagues, or even when thinking in English. The more you practice, the more confident and fluent you will become. Learning advanced English is a journey, and every small step brings you closer to your goal. Thank you for joining me today on Fluent English Journey. I hope you found these sentences helpful, practical, and inspiring. Keep practicing, stay curious, and remember that language learning is about expressing yourself naturally and confidently in real-life situations. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode, where we will continue exploring practical and advanced English you can use every day. Until then, take care, keep learning, and enjoy using English in your daily life.